Game day and the DM ghosts us all. Just finished up a campaign and our DM wanted to be a player, so as a group we advertised Roll20 for a new DM. Found a few, chose one. He was great, right into backstories and flavor. Spent several weeks back and forth in Discord chat planning characters, making sure we were all on board. Essentially a 2-week long session 0. We have a couple of voice chats, all is good. Game day comes. We are all there, super excited, and he just didn't show up, not even a word. Then he deleted the entire Discord server he had created his own, rather than join ours. I never understood that at all, because we were a great bunch of players, open-minded, chatty, keen, and genuinely nice people. He had also already invested hours chatting about backstories with us. A single sentence sorry, I can't do this, and just transferred the Discord server to one of us, which was full of our back and forth chatting and planning how players knew each other, rather than deleting it. The downside of doing the right thing. So, a few weeks back, I left my table, because we didn't want the same thing at the same table. Makes sense. If I had posted my grievances here, half the comments would probably have suggested I find another table. Now I'm into looking in LFG for a new table. I've sent over 10 applications, got about 3 or 4 interviews now, and to this point I just wasn't picked. I will still go through fitting games this morning, and do it again, to have a place at a table that better fits my style. But I get it. When a player clearly isn't happy at their table and they hesitate to leave, it's because they don't want to be where I am, looking unsuccessfully. And every time I get a new message saying that they picked someone else, I'm wondering what I did or said wrong. So yeah, it's easy to leave a table. It's very hard to find a new one. Doesn't mean they shouldn't still leave. Just, there is a tangible cost to even the right choice. Guy hits on my wife, gets political and tries to take my players. So I was ming at my house. They were my friends since early college. One of them wanted to invite another friend over because he needs a buddy right now. I relent, thinking it's because he's depressed or something. I was wrong. So the only important people you really need to know are Buddy and my wife girlfriend at the time. So Buddy gets there after all of the rest of us, and notices me and my girlfriend cuddling on the couch watching TV until everyone shows up. He proceeds to hit on my girlfriend relentlessly until the rest told him to knock it off. I decide to let it go, because he stopped, and I'm willing to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. So we start getting character sheets set up. This is session 0 and it's Pathfinder, so it's taking a while when someone makes a joke about the election. It was obviously just a joke, and it was about this taking forever. Buddy took it a bit personally and started stating his political views loudly and aggressively. We ask him to stop kindly and he refuses, getting louder. So I tell him that if he can't control himself, I will ask him to leave. He has already caused enough discomfort. That is when he loses it, claiming I'm treading all over his rights of free speech and stomping around the house. I tell him flatly to get out of my house. He then looks at all my friends and says that they should come over to his place for game night instead. They all refuse because I'm obviously the one who planned this. So he storms out. I thought that was the last of it, but I was wrong. After he left, I was told why he needed a buddy. Apparently he was a repeat offender of child porn and was going to jail 4 years soon. My friend wanted me to bring a sexual predator into my home. Needless to say, that friend is no longer a friend and Buddy is still in jail as far as I know. The Good Necromancer. This one's pretty mild, but I find it humorous. I'm the DM running an online homebrew campaign in a third-party 5th edition setting. The campaign was maybe 4 or 5 sessions in. I recruited a new player and was going through character creation with him about an hour before the game. He gave me the basic concept of a good bullied necromancer, which I thought was great. I briefed him on the basics of what had been going on and some of the lore of the setting. That session the players were helping authorities infiltrate and take over a fortified prison run by a group of rogue knights. The players run into this necromancer as he's also infiltrating the prison on a similar mission. New necromancer steps out and reveals his character art, which I'm seeing for the first time, and it's this super cringy, monstrously mutated human. I smirk to myself, but continue on. It's just art, and maybe this is a don't judge a book by its cover situation. So we have a scary looking, but good-looking necromancer. Well, the group continues on and eventually liberates all the prisoners by defeating the warden and a few guards. When the battle was decided, the remaining prison guards/knights will drop their weapons, and I pause initiative. We start ripping things when the good necromancer says I cast a spell at the guard who hit me earlier. Okay. So much for that good alignment, but player agency and all, so I let the guy cast chromatic orb, and he misses. So I allow the guard to pick up his sword and lunge at the necromancer. Before I can even make the roll, the guy rage quits. I narrate the guard decapitating the necromancer, then dropping his sword again and shrugging. Thus ends the tale of the good necromancer. 3 hours of wasted time just to find out I can't play a black PC. So I hopped on Roll20 LFG and found a game. Applied through an annoying questionnaire and a whole screening process via Discord voice chat. Was accepted. Set out a time and date with the DM to do character creation. Since it was homebrewed and tedious, go through the whole character creation process for 3 hours with the DM. And then we got to the PC token picture. He sent me a list of young British celebrities on IMDb. So I picked one off there, John Boyega. I cut the background out and sent him the image. Instantly I heard a groan. He then went on to explain how in his homebrew fantasy world, there was only white people in the city the game takes place in. He then said some bullshit about realism to try and justify it. I accepted the wasted time and just dipped. I truly can't understand why you would make an entire homebrew world just to segregate people in it. Quick little update. Last night on the LFG post I left a comment saying something like maybe you should let players know they can't play non-white player characters. Is it wrong to express confusion on a nonsense world? I recently got recommended to join a game at a public bar. The theme was Cyberpunk 2022 W/John Wick, at least according to the DM who I met a week beforehand. Day comes, I spent a solid few hours trying to figure out building a character sheet beforehand, and finish up with some help there, and the game starts. We are given exactly zero information on the world, except that we start at the Continental from the John Wick movies. Zero. I figure I should give it a shot and roll with it, but it gets pretty difficult to do so when we are only told after the fact about 3 or 4 times that we don't have something that the character builder says we should, such as our weapons, or even a phone. Eventually we get to some burned out church with a secret contract lair, where the DM forces us to, in the only solid mention of Cyberpunk this entire time, jack into the definitely not suspicious computer directly, even though near all of us have phones on our character or an equivalent, until he receives some pushback from 3/5 players. Not 14 minutes later he decided to stop the campaign, and I wake up a few days later removed from the Discord and a DM from him calling me argumentative and disruptive. Are all games like this? This is really starting to get old. Sketchy neckbeard turned single player RP into catgirl creepfest. A few years back, I put out a call for players on FB and got a bunch of replies from people who wanted to play but had a hard time finding a DM. Perfect, I thought. The player numbers started to wind down while figuring out scheduling, as is expected. But I had one player who really wanted to play the game but couldn't make scheduling work, so he suggested an asynchronous single player game. Sounded easy enough. I could reply on my own time. So why not? Now I know why not. So I'm a young woman, was in my mid-20s at the time, and this player was a guy I met at an AninCon who seemed friendly enough. I hate to call that alone a red flag, but in hindsight, it kinda was. I tell him the basic premise. It's RPFQ's D&D 5e, but with themes of cosmic horror. In a homebrew setting. Weird portals are opening up around the starter town, and he has to figure out how to close them before anything too dangerous gets through. Since he was playing by himself, instead of with a full party, I told him that I'd fill the setting with different NPCs he could recruit for his adventures. His first question, can I build relationships with the NPCs? I replied that of course you can, it's an RP heavy game. And your actions and conversations can get NPCs to like/trust you more. No, I mean romantic relationships. I raised an eyebrow and said that some NPCs could possibly respond to romantic gestures depending on the character and how it's roleplayed. I generally don't have an issue with PC-PC or PC-NPC relationships, after all, but they are not the main focus by any means. You're okay with adult content, right? I immediately saw where this was heading and told him this may not be the kind of RPG he's looking for. This was a magic adventure RPG, not a dating sim. He insisted he was just asking out of curiosity, then asked a lot of questions about NPC appearances, including if any were anthropomorphic and how old they were, pretty much alluding to are they hot/catgirls and legal? At least I hope that adult age is the answer he was looking for. I blocked him on Discord and FB. I'm glad I shut him down fast and that he showed his true intentions before we actually started playing. The other group that I'm running the game for, they've been playing for 4 years, now are getting into high levels of play and uncovering the deeper plot points I set up, have become good friends, and 2 of them are getting married later this month. I can only imagine how the creep would have derailed this wonderful group with his catgirl spank bank goals. Gaslighted into thinking DM disappeared. I roll. Long. Point of order. I can only tell you what happened, the conclusion I came to, and the evidence to support it. This 100% happened as I remember it. A Reddit post in LFG was asking for players for a homebrew 5e setting. Very steampunk, flying City of Gears style kind of story. We get chosen after talking online via Discord privately with the DM, and then we meet the other members of the newly formed group. Everyone seems chill and excited to play. The DM goes into his history of Ming, how he lives in Japan, and how he is Ming other games along with ours. Important for later. We get in gear, first session right into the heart of the story. We are all playing, fighting guards, music is playing on a bot. It was awesome. A poster child for how a game should start and feel, or so we thought. The week goes by, and we begin to pile in for session 2. All the players are in the Discord ready to go, and now we are just waiting for the DM, who was active and had messaged in the general chat an hour ago. He doesn't show. We wait awkwardly for 45 minutes waiting, trying to private message him, message his Reddit, nothing. We say maybe something happened, I hope he is okay, and agree to meet again next week, and wait in the meantime to see if he messages in the group. The week goes by silently. It is the day before game day. Radio silence. A new person joins the Discord. It is Guy. Made up name. Guy says he is from the DM's other game and asks us if we have heard from him. The DM also missed their game and hasn't messaged anyone. 0.0. At this point, we are all like, WTF? Where is he? What is going on? We barely know each other, so when game day comes and goes without him, we all awkwardly say goodbye after one session. As I hover my mouse over the leave Discord server button, I have a thought. How did Guy get into the server? No one knew him. He was a stranger who, according to him, knew the DM. The server was for our game alone, made by the DM, and only he invited us. Who invited Guy? Did the DM fabricate this plan? This plan to end the recently started game by faking his disappearance and create a fake account under the name Guy to sell the story. Was our session 1 so bad collectively that he activated some Omega level last resort to avoid an awkward conversation? If this ending is disappointing to you, I agree. I still don't know. I stayed in the server for another month, sending messages to both accounts and got nothing back. It is the single weirdest experience in my life as a D&D player. My friend is getting bullied through his game. My friend doesn't have Reddit, so I'm posting on his behalf. I DM for him, but the group in question is from another game that he's in. Keep in mind, this group is online and with fellow adults. He's basically told me that over the course of this game, he has had 4 characters die. They've only played around 10 sessions. 2 of the deaths have been at the hands of other players. One was during PvP, the other as the players basically threw his character off a cliff, with no saving throw required by the DM. The DM has targeted him every session. His DM has had every enemy in combat focus specifically on this character, refused to let his character roll saving throws, said that he failed saving throws the other players passed, even though he got higher rolls than them, plus his DM rolls their death saves. And my friend's character almost always get all fails or a nat 1 every time. Every time he dies, or his character gets hurt, the entire group, including the DM, finds it incredibly funny when the other players aren't killing him, they are messing with his character in other ways, like trying to take their things, making NPCs attack the character, or beating up the character. He's told the DM that he feels like he's being targeted, and the DM basically told him to grow up cause it's funny. My friend is also autistic and isn't always great at picking up on cues. He wasn't totally oblivious, he just thought he was overreacting. Since one time, after they killed his character, he got upset and left, and everyone in the group told him he was being dramatic and to grow up. I think they were basically gaslighting him into thinking that he was being the childish one when they're the ones acting like middle school bullies. Really, their behavior is exactly like bullies messing with someone, saying it's just a joke, and then finding it funny whenever the subject of their torment gets upset. The group we are in together all told him to block them and not to play with them and to distance himself from them. But he's a bit nervous about the prospect. He knows he has to. He just doesn't like confrontation. I feel really bad since he's a really nice guy, super funny, and an awesome player. I genuinely think this group had it out for him because he sometimes struggles with social cues and obviously refused to make accommodations for him at the table. I think because of this, they just thought he was weird and a good target for their power trip. Right now I really want to help support him in dumping these guys and giving him an actual good supportive group to play with. Edit. Fix grammar and formatting and added more details so I won't have to keep going back and adding details as he gives me more information about this group.